We are live. We need some nice intro music in the future we're going to get. So when everyone comes in, we have something for them. So that's on their way. So if you listen to this on a replay, we're going to have intro music soon.
All right, Mickey, I see the first folks showing up to hear you.
Rob XRP, welcome. Welcome, everyone. All right, we got 25 people already. All right, this is great. So,
what's going on, Mickey? What's going on, Lars?
Yes, so we have Brooklyn with us today, aka Rob Liquor on Twitter, and we also have the one and only Lars with us. So we have a nice round.
Good evening, you two. I think we're going to have to call you Brooklyn this evening because it's two New Yorkers talking about the Securities and Exchange Commission. I'm glad I'm here with you.
Thank you.
No worries.
So the Southern District of New York is where this case is going, not too far from where we are. And that is like the premier district, I believe, right, Brooklyn, in the country for federal court cases.
Yeah, that's where like all the heavy criminal stuff and all this other stuff goes. The real heavy stuff goes down there for the most part, I think.
Yeah, that's where the big stuff happens. So let's just give it a couple more minutes, let everyone pile in. And we got 53 so far. Hello, guys. Welcome. Personally, Danny A., I am a Mets fan. I actually pitched at Shea Stadium when I was younger in college baseball and out of high school. So I am a Mets fan. I don't know. What about you, Brooklyn? Are you Mets or Yankees?
I'm from Brooklyn, but I'm a fan of the evil empire. And I'm born on the same day as Babe Ruth. So
okay. All right. Good to know. Welcome, Banjo.
I was at game 2 when Clemens threw the bat at Piazza in right field.
Oh, that was such a great World Series. Oh, that was some of the great times. I was just out of high school then. All right, let's get to talking about what we're going to talk about, which is the XRP community striking back against the evil empire, which is the SEC. And
I'm not a fan of that evil empire. That one.
Yeah, that's an evil empire for sure. So I want to hear your thoughts, Brooklyn, on the news that came out that now that John Deaton actually is able to be part of the case in the Southern District. And what does this mean for the XRP community now that we have a representative?
I'm not an attorney, so I don't know. I was speaking to, Lars in the pre-show, and I don't know if he's going to actually be able to speak. Maybe some people in the audience will know if he's actually going to be able to speak, or this is just a procedural thing where he's added to the case. Now he's allowed to practice in New York. But what I understand and what I know about Dean is the guy's an absolute pit bull. He's a loose cannon rolling around on a deck. He's a bull. The guy's a former Marine, and if there's anybody to lead the XRP Army into the battle, it's that guy. He's not going to stop. And if they want to play around with this guy and let things get wacky and discovery down the road, I think there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable former people at the SEC.
I think so, too. I really think that he's shined a light that the SEC is supposed to be protecting us, the retail investors. That's their whole MO, and that's what they stand for. And now we have Deaton's intervention for the XRP community saying, hey, we have 10,000 XRP holders here who have been harmed because of the SEC's action, who they're supposed to protect. So the judge in this case, even if he's not able to actually maybe speak, she's obviously aware of all this going on. There's FOIA requests coming from the XRP community, FOIA requests from Ripple. What determined that Ethereum and Bitcoin were not securities? So this guy, Hinman, just got up there in 2018 at a random Yahoo conference and said, yeah, I don't think Bitcoin was ever a security, which is questionable from the beginning. And then he says Ethereum might have had an illegal ICO, but it's not a security right now. It's sufficiently decentralized. But he never went on to describe or define what is decentralization. Like, what are the parameters? Is there a certain amount of nodes? Does it have to be geographically distributed? Does the supply have to be distributed? He didn't say any of that. And then we find out the guy's working for a law firm that's paid by the Ethereum Foundation while he said this. So,
and Canaan, this Chinese proof of work mining too.
Exactly. It's
bad.
corruption.
Bad.
It's bad. And now it's getting, the more we talk about this and the more we tweet about it. Yes, relist XRP is great, but bringing to light these questionable ethics, I guess you could say, by these SEC commissioners and directors, it's like a revolving door. So how is he able to be paid literally by the Ethereum Foundation, his law firm, and he's working at the SEC, and then gives them a free pass? No, and then after he said that, it was just a given that Ethereum wasn't a security then.
I don't understand how he could possibly work at the SEC and still be employed in the private sector. You would think that's it sounds like what they're running there is a pay for play shop, which is
yeah, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like a racket almost in a way.
Yeah.
You know, all we need is to keep getting the attention, the media, and eventually the congressmen. They're going to drag Hinman, I hope, and Clayton in front of Congress for an investigation to say why his actions, by what he said that day, William Hinman, changed the market landscape so much for the next few years. And we all wondered, why did XRP's price suppressed? Everyone's asking, who's suppressing the XRP price? Who's suppressing it? Nobody's suppressing it. They're under investigation by the SEC. We just didn't know about it, but I'm sure a lot of the institutions did. And that's why it was just kind of like stuck in the gutter for 2 years, and now we know why. And he could have gave clarity, or at least said something about XRP. He just came up short and just listed those two. So do you think it's questionable of his ethics that he only said those two?
I mean, realistically, at the time, you know, XRP has slipped now, obviously because of the stuff that's going on. But for 5 years, basically, you know, the top three cryptocurrencies were Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP. Who is the biggest competitor? Obviously, and the one, look at all of the stuff that went down with FinCEN, with the crippling. If that stuff didn't go down, where would XRP be right now? Maybe Codius launches. Maybe all this stuff the wraps. You know, and so yeah, you know, if I'm representing the interest of these Chinese mining corporations and, you know, the Ethereum Alliance, definitely XRP with the gloves taken off, allowing them to fully develop things like Codius and all this consumer-facing wallet applications, connect the dots.
Yeah.
XRP was serious competition for Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yeah, absolutely was. And that's an important thing to bring up with FinCEN. And I want to talk about that a lot of us came into XRP after that FinCEN fine. So a lot of us, not all of us, I mean, I came in like the beginning of 2018 and to 2017. And we didn't really hear much about the FinCEN. It was already 2 years over. But what that FinCEN case did and how it hindered XRP and Ripple from building like Ripple Trade, which was a wallet that was literally going to let you just trade assets right on the XRP ledger. And they were building KYC, AML into it. But because Roger Ver didn't fill out one paper saying, you know, his KYC AML, FinCEN came in and did this huge investigation into everything that Ripple was doing and then put the kibosh on all those plans. And it limited the XRP ledger from having utility. So, and then how can the SEC then come in 5 years later and say, well, you know what? Yeah, there was no utility here. There's no use case. Well, it's because FinCEN put the crackdown on 5 years ago. So it's like Ripple's been hammered from so many different sides and taking all these punches, and they just keep on battling forward. And now we have the community army added too.
Right.
And what do you think about Jeb McCaleb's role that he wasn't named in any of this?
There's a guy that, I mean, if you want to talk about somebody who has a lucky balloon over their head, I mean, it's got that guy.
Yeah, I agree.
Nothing bad hits Jed. I mean, Mt. Gox, he's Teflon.
Yeah.
You said John Gotti was Teflon? No, he's got nothing on Jed McCaleb.
Yeah, he squeaked out he sold Mt. Gox right before everything went down there. He got out of Ripple before everything. But there is that detail that I don't like about Jed, that he was trying to sell Ripple to Stripe for like $13 million. And thank God that Larson and Brito were like, hell no. they were like, no, we're not doing that. 13 million? Imagine selling a $10 billion company to Stripe. Then Stripe wound up investing in Stellar after that.
Right.
So there is a connection there with Stellar and Stripe and Stellar. So Jed always seems to squeeze out of it. But Agent 1, I think Brito was named in it as a founder, and Cryptographer 1 was David Schwartz in the case as well.
I thought I heard recently supposedly he weaseled out of paying Brito the 2% that he owes him.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the contract agreement. I don't know what happened with that, if that was maybe negotiated within the settlement with Jed selling his XRP. Brito was supposed to get 2% of all the XLM, you know?
Right.
And we still speculate to this day. You and I talk about who holds the Satoshi wallet. Like, hypothetically speaking, what if that is Brito? You know, I mean, literally, they could take that, BTC and literally make it FBTC on the Flare network, technically, and it wouldn't even affect the market price of Bitcoin. It would just be used on the Flare network and be used also as collateral without affecting the market price of Bitcoin. Like, it wouldn't hurt it at all. So it's really interesting to know who actually has that Satoshi wallet.
I don't know if we're going to ever know, but that's one of the greatest mysteries. You know, hope one day we'll find out. I think.
Mickey, I got a note to raise up Brooklyn's volume just a little bit, if you could.
Okay.
They want to hear you both. And really, I mean, it's hard for me to get into New Yorkers here, so I'm happy just sitting back.
Let me see what I can do with Brooklyn here. Hang on, guys.
Maybe it's my phone. I don't know. Is there something on the phone I can
I'm going to try and move it higher.
No,
Is that better? Talk now. See.
Hey, guys.
Is that coming in okay? Just drop a note in there if it seems okay.
Can you hear me now?
Just keep going. I'll just say
loud
something
in my
later.
headphones. All right, I think it's better.
I hear all you guys really well, but I don't know I'm not listening to YouTube, so I don't know what it sounds like.
Okay, sound says good. The Brito shit.
Okay, awesome.
So where do we think?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to move on. Here's a question. It says, please provide some info. How is it that the SEC's opinion seems to hold more weight than FinCEN and the DOJ's court rulings? How is that possible? Well, because we don't have a regulatory framework that defines really what virtual currencies are. It's just an interpretation. And now the SEC's coming in saying it's an unregistered security. What gives them that right? Go ahead.
To be fair about that, though, they're a three-letter agency with the government, and they're pursuing this case. That's my dog. Do we know that it really does carry more weight? I mean, this matter hasn't been adjudicated yet. It's not over. It may wind up being dropped or Gensler gets in. So, on the surface, it just seems like it has more weight. But the game hasn't concluded yet. It's just getting started, really.
It is. So it's my understanding that Thursday, I believe, Gensler is looking to be confirmed. So he's going to be walking into a crap storm, I guess you could say.
Big time.
It's going to be a mess because he's going to have to deal with all the blowback. I mean, when has the SEC been able to file a case? And they're always going after like rich offenders, like say they went after Elon Musk, Chris Larson, Brad Garlinghouse. But now you have the XRP community fighting back. I just think that's so powerful that these are the people they're supposed to protect, and they're coming at them. The judge has to see this. So yeah. I think we could see a phase here where if we get one relisting from a U.S. exchange, just for example, hypothetically, say Bitstamp does it, and I think we'll get a bump in price from that, and then, that could lead towards the anticipation of the case being dropped, and then we could see a real jump. Like, do you see something like that happening?
Hard to say. I know supposedly there's one, I haven't verified the veracity of it to know if it's accurate, but there's supposedly one Scandinavian exchange that already has relisted, but it seems to be that may have happened a week or so ago or 2 weeks ago, or something, LYKKE.
So
supposedly relisted already.
So Jack Frost, Bitstamp isn't in the U.S., but they have a bit license, and they are one of the few that are legally allowed to sell XRP in the state of New York. So Brooklyn and I know you could only legally really buy XRP with fiat from Bitstamp and Coinbase, really, in the state of New York. That's it.
That's it.
What is the other one? Gemini you could use, but they don't offer XRP. And Uphold, not available in New York. GateHub, I don't believe is available unless you go through the decentralized exchange, then you can. But that's all there is. So not everyone has the option with Uphold. So Deaton should bring that up, that it's some states you could use Uphold and buy XRP, but like I tried to sign up for Uphold, doesn't let you. It only lets you use fiat currencies in New York, for example, and some other states.
How about crypto.com? 49 states. 49.
Except
but not New York. How does that go down?
I know. It's just we're the worst state. I mean, such an over-regulated state. I wonder if with BitGo getting and some of these other custodians getting actual bit licenses will help towards that. And maybe when Standard Custody and Trust gets their approval for a trust custodian in New York, maybe that will help with their solution. And we could all buy XRP then off the ledger legally. And we could have this inner exchange network around the ledger. I really think that is the plan for what they're working towards. And Kraken's another one. It's a crypto bank, meanwhile, but it's not available in New York to buy XRP.
Jesse Powell has no interest in New York. He's like the political stuff. They don't want to. They crawled up their butt with a microscope with the bit license, and they just said, it's not worth it. And they didn't even bother.
Exactly. So Wilhelm V says, can someone explain to me why I'm not rich yet? Well, I think you could blame the SEC for part of that. So this investigation has been going on for 30 months. So I think that answers a lot of the people's questions. It answers mine of why it was like the price was being suppressed. I don't really think it was being suppressed. It's just that a lot of the institutions and those in the know knew that XRP was under investigation, or at least.
I'll be honest.
Go ahead.
If Jay Clayton doesn't take a dump in a bowl, not flush, and give a courtesy spray 48 hours before he leaves the SEC, with all of the stuff that was going on with Flare and Spark, we were at $3. It was like $1.
Yeah, we were
even with the overhang of security still waffling around in the air, we were hitting all-time high. In this market, does Cardano have clarity? No, it's at $1.12.
And didn't even have its smart contract before he launched. Exactly.
They don't even have smart contracts. We would be on Coinbase still. It would have hit all-time high.
I agree.
When that guy, Jay Clayton's name, my blood pressure goes up like 80 points. Because I did multiple whole Bitcoin right now because of that clown and amount of XRP. I look at him, he's like, he robbed me of something generational. Him, personally.
Yeah, you know what? That he is to blame for that. I mean, and now he's at Apollo, but that's not Apollo the crypto. That's Apollo the finance company. Totally different than the token. I just want everyone to know that, because there was some confusion on that earlier. So with what's going on here now, how do we see Gensler handle this? Because once he gets in here, he's going to have to address this. This is by far one of the highest profile cases ever in the SEC, and it's getting all this media attention now. He's going to have to address this. Does he want this stink of what Clayton brought on and this guy Hinman and all the skeletons in their closet? Does he want to defend that, or does he want that to go away and do his own thing? And that's where I think he's going to at least come in and try to negotiate with Ripple. Or it's possible Deaton getting involved with more of this. They could just drop the whole case. It is very possible because they're looking really bad right now, the SEC. What do you think, Lars?
Well, Mickey, I'm actually interested in that question a lot because you've got Gensler, who was in political office before, so he has a political background, but he's also this academic who understands the journey that crypto has gone through to get where it's at. And one of the things I feel is that makes me just really relaxed about this whole thing is I feel more and more like Ripple is just, they're driving a bulldozer. There is nothing that has stopped them. And so you've got this moment in history now with a huge political mess up, regulation, all that stuff. I'm completely confident that Ripple is going to be able to bulldoze through this. But I wonder what Gensler is feeling like. I mean, he's a guy with incredible awareness of the history of cryptocurrency, the understanding of it, the economic understanding of it. And where did, you know, in a way, he's got a bit to say about where does the whole thing go in the future of the world. So I think it's much more at this point than just the political screw ups that have recently happened with Clayton and Hinman and stuff like that. So I'm curious what you two think. And if I get a chance to say something in 20 minutes or so, I'll pop back in.
Go ahead, Rob.
You know, to me, the whole thing with Clayton, in reality, he was on his way out the door. He should have, they had 4 years to do something. They did nothing. Mary Jo White had 4 years before him. They did nothing. He should have prepared a dossier. He should have said, you know, hey, this thing's a security. It's an unregistered security. It's illegal. It has to be shut down. But you know what? I'm leaving. Here's my dossier. It's on you, Gary Gensler, to deal with this. They didn't do that. It should have been left on Gensler's desk. Now that they did that, I can't imagine that Gary Gensler, there's no guarantee he's going to get more than 4 years at this thing. There's no guarantee he'll get reelected. If he doesn't get reelected, there'll be a new head of the SEC. So do you really want to waste your 4-year head of being the SEC as a chair on somebody else's mess? Or do you want to get in there and try to usher in a new crypto framework, work with Congress and get the DCEA passed, the token taxonomy? Or do you want to waste 4 years on stupidity?
Exactly. And now he did say that in his confirmation hearing. He said that he wants to work with Congress to provide a regulatory framework because the SEC can't provide full regulatory framework. That's to Congress and legislation to come out.
Correct.
But what he can do is at least provide more clear guidelines in the meantime until that legislation is done. So he could free up the market in the meantime, where Jay Clayton has just completely tied the hands of all XRP holders and Ripple. Meanwhile, the rest of the market explodes. So, and Ripple's been the most successful of all the blockchain companies that there is out there right now in the last decade, worth the most value. And if Coinbase is going to IPO for $100 billion, what do you think Ripple's going to IPO for? So let's put it that way. And they have a much better business model with less threats to it than Coinbase does. Coinbase's biggest threat is DeFi and decentralized exchanges. So Ripple has many different business models. And XRP2 LLC, I could see that becoming a spinoff of some sort because that's who has the money service provider business license in New York and the BIT license. So I see Gensler coming in. My real opinion here is I think that he's going to come in to a mess and he's going to want to see all the facts. And if he sees that there is more skeletons in the closet, I could see this thing getting dropped or at least a settlement that's a light settlement. I don't think that Ripple's going to agree to anything that hinders them in the future. And on to the escrow scenario here. So I want to throw my opinion on that one too. I don't think it's just that Ripple keeps it and keeps doing what they're doing and selling it, or the government confiscates it. Like, those are two extremes. What's with the middle one? As long as the Ripple is not selling it for big profits and billions in the future or trillions, then the SEC shouldn't have a problem with that. But they shouldn't get it. The government shouldn't get it because, like the video, if you just watched that I did an hour or two ago, David Schwartz says it is the most important thing that XRP stays a neutral asset, meaning its supply is neutral. It can't be held by just one jurisdiction, being the SEC. And they can't technically confiscate it anyway. And Patty XRP and myself, we did a video on that. So I want to know what your opinion is on the idea of how the SEC looks at the escrow and what they might do with it or want Ripple to do with it. You there?
Yeah,
everything I've learned about it. Go ahead, Brooklyn.
Either one. Go ahead.
Well, and I find it interesting about the escrow that there seems to be such a debate amongst the various legal minds of the XRP community.
Mm-hmm.
Notably, I think Hogan and I'm trying to think, maybe Deaton were kind of like that. In theory, it's possible that if the government wants it, they're going to get it. And oddly enough, Jesse Hines seems to be kind of like where I'm at with this, that it's a decentralized system. Good luck getting it.
Yeah.
That's what my thing.
Exactly. And the whole
We
thing,
don't even know, like, who controls those wallets? Like, when the leases, who controls the wallet?
Nobody knows. And I highly doubt it's some guy sitting behind a desk just saying, hey, send 100 million over there. This is all automated. The whole system's going to go to autonomous based on data.
I have a feeling those wallets are probably multi-sig too. So
They are. That one, there is ways to see the wallets. You could see some signatures on it. Like I know Chris Larson was on one, but they move stuff around in ways that you're never going to know. And they hide behind these exchange wallets. So when we see Coinbase moving 200 million XRP, they're using that to mask whatever type of transactions, because it could be, for all we know, that could be one of Coinbase's wallets that's controlled by the market maker under PolySign, and they're just using Coinbase, Binance, Deaton to mask those batch transactions. The exchanges aren't sending that stuff. That's the users of them or special integrations into those exchanges that Ripple has through ODL wallets, PolySign, and others. It's a way to hide the transactions. They can't have this stuff publicly being seen, who's moving what around. And I think that it was an overreach of the privacy for asking for Larson and Garlinghouse's personal records. I thought that was way too far. They had no business asking for that in a non-fraud case.
Mickey, one of the things that I'm enjoying, like with you talking about the escrow and comparing it to the reward system that Flare Network is going to be able to do, and now you're talking about Trustline and the new bank that's coming, Probity, that's coming onto the Flare Network, and how that's going to be so closely integrated with the XRP ledger. And so just in terms of how the escrow would be used, the way you've talked about it, oh, well, Flare could be an example of that as an incentive for everything. And it really feels to me like everything is tying together so powerfully now. And one thing I've thought I don't think it's so much any now as I see all the screw ups on the SEC's part, but almost that Ripple would have wanted this to happen, to get that clarity, to be able to say, okay, we're off to the races now, because it feels like everything is fueled up and just ready to go at this point.
Exactly. And K-Spec makes a good point here. Ripple's known that they would never, they've been set up, calculated to, in any situation where the government could confiscate the escrow. So they've been planning for that. But now moving on to the probity, what you talked about here, and one really interesting tweet in the video I did this morning was that it said that the RA stablecoin is issued on the XRP ledger. So I found that fascinating. So that means that escrow, it doesn't mean the escrow has to be used for only one thing. So it doesn't only necessarily have to be used to, say, hypothetically, reward everyone who mints an RA stablecoin. Maybe some can. Some could maybe be distributed to the ODL users. Some could maybe be distributed to the central banks for CBDCs. So there's half the supply there. There's so much of it. It's that escrow could be divvied up and used in different ways, as Ripple doesn't need to profit from it anymore at this stage. They could IPO. But what you're getting at, Lars, is that, and I'm going to do a video on this. I really like this topic because it makes sense to me a lot. That XRP out of escrow has value, but it doesn't have the value if you just sold it on the market. It would crush the market price, right? If it was just sold. But if you took that XRP and put it in as collateral, it's still that value of the market then. So if you took 1 billion XRP at market price and put it in as collateral into, say, the Probity vault, and you minted stablecoins out of that, that value is what it is. That's the value of it in collateral. But if you went to sell that on the market, you would not get the market price. So what I'm trying to get at here is that the escrow has value in different ways. If it's used as collateral, it's the market value. But if it's sold on the secondary market, it would be sold at less than the market value and hurt it. So as we say, Bitcoin is pristine collateral. Really, Spark and XRP are actually going to be even better forms of collateral in the future, in my opinion.
And like one of the things with the Flare network coming out now, and it's just amazing to see that they took, what is it, 45 billion, 45% of their entire network, and they just gave it to XRP holders. Like, they're not thinking, oh, what percentage can I keep and give it away? It's like, I want to incentivize Flare to work well. And now these huge rewards pools for minting FXRP and the perennial reward for making the FTSO operate with the Spark token. And just that, it's a whole different way of looking at things. Instead of like, how much can I make on this or that? It's like, how strong can I make a system? And they've got half of all of the tokens to do that, should they choose to go down this path that you're talking about.
Exactly. Yes. I was just responding to Gian here, who was talking about the FATF regulations and the cross-border, and how are these tokens going to, and these crypto assets going to comply with the travel rule. And that's where PayString comes in, I really think here. Sorry, I missed part of the end of your question there, Lars, when I was typing.
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead. It's just this comparison between what Flare is doing, just so loading up the incentives, not in order that we get a certain percentage, that we, that we're rewarded with a percentage of yield. It's to get their system to go.
Yes.
And if XRP or Ripple has half of the XRP to incentivize their system, that is an incredibly powerful thought. They're already in such a strong position, and now they've still got half of their ammunition sitting there to strengthen the system. That's almost unbelievable.
It is, and that's why I always thought the most advantageous component of Ripple's plan, and there's a reason why David Schwartz calls it a war chest, a strategic weapon. Those are powerful words. You don't say something like that you're going to give away. You don't give away your war chest. And you make sure that thing's locked up tight so it can't be taken away. And I think it is good to look at Flare and how they're using crypto economics and market mechanisms to incentivize behavior, not just to reward everyone. Yes, that's a effect from participating in the network that causes the network to be robust and provide decentralized price feeds. So you're being rewarded, and it's going to be massive in the beginning. And I keep saying that. Early participation is going to be massive because they're going to be rewarding like there's a lot more participation than there is in the beginning. So you can't lose your XRP if you mint FXRP. The whole point of the FXRP system is trustless. So I expect Ripple, when they use the word boosted, when they say boosted with digital assets, I think that they do have a strategy in the future once they get clarity on how to use that escrow to incentivize the liquidity of the network and other ways. I'm not exactly sure how, and there's so much of it, like you said, half the supply. I mean, look at how all these other networks use incentives. Why would we think that Ripple would just not take part in that? They used it in the beginning for computation of the energy. What was that? IBM's. Remember when they paid?
That program for they were giving out rewards for people who were helping to do computations.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. So it goes to show they already were thinking of that early on. Now, in the future, why would the SEC or any other government have a problem if Ripple was just letting this parts of the escrow just go out for free because of certain behaviors in the market? Say it be institutional, say it be retail. So I think that's a real scenario we should look towards instead of like confiscation. Like, what's the reason for confiscating still? I mean, what is a public utility? I mean, that's really a shallow argument, I still think.
So what sort of clarity do you think that Ripple needs with this theory of using the escrow? Because if they're sitting there figuring, what do we need to be able to get that program on the go, to get it rolling? How do you think this current situation might play into that?
I think that they want to be a participant in the XRP ledger's ecosystem like anybody else. And I think they want to have the ability to build applications and infrastructure for others to build on top of them. And I think they want the free range to be able to use their XRP to do those things. Not necessarily to sell for profit, but I think they want to be free to be able to build just the way that R3 builds applications on Corda, or the Ethereum Foundation sponsors different things. I think they want more freedom in how they could participate in the ecosystem. And they don't have that right now because they're looked at like this common enterprise and it's a security. So once that's freed up, I think we'll see them able to build more infrastructure for other applications. That's what I think.
All right. Hey, so we have to take like a moment here. We're about 40 minutes in. And, when you press the replay on this, you'll be able to hear Mickey in Brooklyn at full speed going after the SEC. And in the past month or two, whenever you mentioned Jay Clayton's name, you lost about 5 minutes to Mickey having a rant on it. So thank you all. You've all been very good for Mickey's mental health, and I can hear you slowing down and moving back into teacher mode on us. So be careful if you all mention that name anymore in the chat here.
Yeah, Brooklyn and I both don't like that name. I just don't. Now I think about it. See, anyways, I got all distracted. So, anyways, next topic. Let's move on. What happens once we do get settlement here? Now, where do we see? Like, I don't talk about this often, and I'm not one for ever talking about price speculation. And I don't think that there's an ultimate price because nobody can predict how utility and demand are going to affect XRP and the use cases that are going to come from it being used as collateral and being used in other ways and use cases. There's not just one use case just to bridge CBDCs. That is a major use case, but it's not the only. And I think it's just impossible to predict long-term price. But I think on the short term, Brooklyn, do you think that, this is not financial advice, do you think that $10 is possible on the short term with an SEC settlement?
I mean, if I had to guess, just looking strictly at say Cardano, what happened to Cardano, where it is in coin. Last go around in 2017, we hit $3.81 on just pure speculation and mostly on that it would actually be listed on Coinbase. I have to think in this particular marketplace, what's going on right now, almost a $2 trillion market cap, Flare adding smart contracts to the mix with this. I find it hard in my head not to think it wouldn't go back to around the all-time high relatively quickly. So somewhere between all-time high and $10, it doesn't sound unreasonable in this particular market. And if this is in the middle of a multi-year, multi-trillion dollar, we might be in the middle of the Cambrian explosion. We might have already had the big bang already. If we're just going to see, for the rest of our life, the rolling of the financial system into this tokenized universe, into the blockchain world, it's never going to stop. It's only going to keep expanding. That's what people don't realize. Will it be, periods where the market is down? Yeah, it'll be just like the stock market. We're going to have bull markets and bear markets. But overall, the trend, if you look at the stock market over 100 years, is up, way up. And I think crypto is going to be the same way. It's not going to stop.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to go in stages. This is just speculative. This is just one market cycle, and we're going to have many, many, many market cycles in the future that are going to be totally different from the 2017 one, from this one. Once utility kicks in and demand of these assets, this is programmable money. This is a whole new asset class. So we can't compare market cap and all those other things. We need new metrics, like you were saying.
Yeah. I just want to share one little thing with Mickey, because I'm a big Kava guy. So check this out. As of right now, you're talking about where these protocols and how we don't know where things are going to go, and escrow and all this other stuff. There's already just in Kava, there's 21.44 million in XRP locked up
as collateral, right?
Correct. That's in Kava. Now the hard protocol, how much is there? Let's see, hard protocol.
So what Brooklyn's explaining is here is how XRP could be locked up as collateral, which pulls it off the secondary markets and allows the price to go up. More demand, less supply. We want less on the exchanges. And I think we're going to be moving away from that exchange model.
So I'm having a little problem with the hard protocol. I can't see exactly how much is in there.
It's a decent amount.
It's a decent amount. So I want to say there's about $40 million in XRP locked up in between Kava and Hard. Kava and Hard, they trade basically on non-American exchanges. It is not easy for U.S. residents to participate. You have to jump through quite a bit of hoops. We talk about this privately, so we know it's not the easiest system to participate in it. 40 million locked up.
Exactly. Wow.
When Flare goes live, you talk about all these uses for the escrow. Connect the dots.
Yeah, connect the dots. They're right there. It just goes to show there's plenty of use cases.
But in these other systems.
Yeah, I'm going to do a deep dive video on that. So hold off on that. Well, here's a good question about the stablecoin thing. And Rancher, I'll get to your thing about the New York XRP Coinbase thing in a Flare thing in a second. Let's just answer this one from K-Spec. What would the RA stablecoin be considered as? Would it be a security or a currency, in your opinion? Okay, so the thing with the RA stablecoin is it's going to be issued in a decentralized way. So it's a synthetic asset. So how is MakerDAO's DAI classified as? It's basically a synthetic, kind of like a derivative. I'm not sure how they're going to classify those things. But the thing is, there's really nothing they could kind of do about it, because if it's trading in decentralized wallets, it never goes to the exchanges, actually. So they could classify it kind of whatever they want, but people are going to be able to mint it right on Flare by putting in their FXRP, and now they have this RA stablecoin. They don't ever need to go to the central exchanges to use it. It all is used on the blockchain. So regulations will only go so far. And I think that to comply with KYC and AML is the most important. And I think that's really where Ripple, Flare, and Global ID and PayString is really focusing on, and they have a solution for it with PayString connected to that protocol. But how do you classify something as a security that there's no issuer? It's a decentralized bank. It's a protocol. So who's it a security of? And if you've seen the video I did earlier today, it actually talks about converting that FXRP collateral to equity of the probity vault. So what does that mean? So, I mean, there's some interesting terminology used in the Trustline Credit Network on Twitter and the probity vault. I'm fascinated by the whole project because if you guys remember 2 years ago, Brad, myself, Kurt from Love for Crypto, and Lee from SBQR Media, when we first heard about Kava and the concept that you could use XRP as collateral to mint a stablecoin, it just fascinated me. And I was like, this is the future. This is where the holy grail of crypto is. If you could combine the attributes of crypto assets, the decentralizedness, the no counterparty, with the unit of account of fiat, now you have the ultimate asset. And now you add programmability to it and yield to it and other surrounding protocols like dynamic interest rates and this. And, I don't know how CBDCs are going to compete long term with that. I think that's their biggest threat to us. So, Brooklyn, I want to ask you this one. So, Jay Rancher here had his XRP on Coinbase, and he lived in New York during the snapshot for Flare. Can he get it is he going to be able to receive Spark? I don't believe so.
My understanding is unfortunately no, and I think Coinbase is going to. I ultimately think Coinbase is going to capitulate?
Yeah,
I think because legally, I don't understand what their rationale for that is. I believe if you check the Coinbase blog, they implicitly say they're not going to support New York residents and they're going to screw New York residents. But they tried the same crap with Ethereum Classic. They tried it with Bitcoin Cash, and they wound up putting up the white flag of surrender. Legally, they're going to be litigated against over this. They're going to be sued. Bitstamp is supporting it. They're airdropping value and just passing it through to you. There's no reason for them not to support that. They're supporting it on their platform. Why would they exclude New York?
Exactly. And they did it 3 days before. So
right.
That was messed up. And also, what was interesting, somebody told me that Coinbase emailed them in general and said that your ratio of Spark could be higher or less than the 1-to-1. So does that mean that everyone who's not getting their Spark in New York on Coinbase, that Spark is going to go to other people who had it on Coinbase in other states? Is that fair?
Yeah.
You know, Coinbase. Exactly.
They're going to get sued on that.
Yeah.
There's no way. What is the legal basis for it? Bitstamp is supporting.
Yeah. There's no legal basis.
And they have
for
a bit license.
They probably just were so mad that they had to bend the knee to the Spark and the Flare Network project. And they just, it's just not right what they do.
Coinbase is they're always a little funky with
Yeah.
that. They always try to push the envelope and screw around with stuff. And ultimately, I don't think that's going to fly. But it's unfortunate because you may not get your access to your Spark right away. Like you said, with the ecosystem, the early bird's getting the worm. So if your Spark is tied up in the first 2, 3, 4 months till Coinbase relents, you might miss out on some yield because you're going to be stuck on Coinbase waiting for it.
Exactly. Oh,
this will get it at some point.
Yes, and Lantern is pointing this out, and I thought this was really important. So what is the meaning and the definition of the word probity, which means the quality of having strong moral principles, honesty, and decency? So that's the meaning behind what they're using the word probity. And then RA, the stablecoin, means golden. So there's always, like DAI says, words mean things. Now you look at what the definitions are, it can help you understand what it means when they say probity vault. So we could look to Kava with the hard protocol. And I know, Brooklyn, you have been active in that community for a while. And that's a good place for anyone who's interested. Well, we're all going to be Spark holders. Is look to how Kava operates and how much profits and yields you're earning there. That's how Flare Finance is going to work, how Flare Network. So this isn't theory or fantasy that you might make these yields. People are already making these now on Kava and hard protocol, on other Compound. And, with Ethereum, there's the really high gas fees. But I think everyone should look into Kava. That's somewhere to get started. So you want to throw something out there with that, Brooklyn?
Talk about an OG, DAI. Yeah. He's like Mr. Asian IMF moon money. Christine Lagarde's making me Lambo. He's changing his tune. He's talking about Kava all the time now. It's nice to have your asset that's just sitting there like a pet rock. Do something besides capital appreciation. You might as the ability to put it into these protocols and earn yield. That is the golden goose, the holy grail with this stuff. Mm-hmm. Because that type of income, I think ultimately is going to be classified different from a tax purpose. It's going to be like interest. It's going to be classified different. It's going to lower your tax basis. You're going to have the ability to possibly borrow against your assets, which might be like a HELOC. All these things aren't set yet, but the ability to have this asset and use it to generate other forms of yield, I think are going to be so much more compelling and attractive down the road than just, let me wait till it goes to 589 and dump it and buy a Lambo. Mm-hmm. Because then and you're not going to have your crypto.
Exactly. Sorry, I was typing something there. Lars?
Well, I'm kind of still back to what you were talking about. All these things come together, and just I'd like to hear a little bit more about the flywheel that you've talked about in earlier days. And back then it was powerful, but it seems like that was just a tiny little go-kart wheel compared to what we're talking about.
So the flywheel approach in economics, I think it depends how it's applied. So with Flare and the way it's being applied here is that they're using these incentive mechanisms. So they're going to incentivize users to bring over their F assets. That's one part of the flywheel to get it spinning. But we're going to get airdropped this Spark. And now at no risk, we're going to be able to delegate and earn Spark. So that's going to spin the flywheel. It's going to drive demand because everyone's going to see others earning Spark. So they're going to be like, Well, the price didn't go up. It didn't go down. It went sideways maybe today, but I made money and I earned at no risk. So my portfolio just went up in value. Now, you could also simultaneously stake that Spark in the F asset system or in the Probity Vault and earn simultaneously that way. Now, this dual earning of yield is going to get the flywheel spinning super fast, quickly in Flare. And by connecting these other networks like XLM, BTC eventually, Litecoin, the Doge community, now Cardano possibly too, and of course the XRP community to bring our assets over. So you're going to trustlessly, you can't lose your XRP if you bring it over as FXRP and mint it. Yes, you pay 5%, and that might sound like a high fee, but that's being paid to those who put up Spark as collateral. You can't put your own collateral up. You do that through an agent, but the fee goes to those who put up Spark. So you could be minting your FXRP and then putting up your Spark, so you could be earning the fees at the same time. So this starts that spinning of the flywheel. These are called market mechanism designs, and they're part of crypto economics. And you could see how it's already taken place in Ethereum with Compound and Uniswap, with Kava, with the CDP, and the hard protocol. We've seen these develop, but what Flare's doing that's unique is the native token doesn't need to be staked, and it doesn't need it to be rewarded to miners. So you free up the native token instead of using it for security. And this is going to have a play when it comes to regulatory compliance. So if institutions want to use Flare, and say regulations say, you know what, if those nodes are in China or North Korea, if we don't know who the validators are, then you can't use that network. And on Ethereum and Bitcoin, you can't tell who the validators are or who's validating transactions. But you know what? On Flare, you can, and you have your own UNL, and you could just send your transactions into those. And then it could be regulatory compliant while DeFi is taking place on the other side of the network. And as institutions using it for trade tech. Same goes to the XRP ledger. Since the UNL is all public, they know who the validators are. And that's where the regulations could cripple things like Ethereum and Bitcoin. It could potentially, where other proof-of-stake networks where the validators are known, like for Kava, for example, those are all enterprise validators. On Flare, it's going to be the same way. You could have different UNLs. So Flare was built with institutional use case in mind, and also DeFi. So these things, even though they seem very opposite of each other, they could easily work on the same network. And at the core of all this, Lars, is the Oracle system. And that is going to be, I think, the key to the future development of the network and why people are going to build on it, enterprises are going to build on it, because the decentralized price feeds will always be trusted, where Chainlink is trusting stake. It's not a decentralized network. That's never going to be sufficient for enterprises to count on long term. That might work for DeFi and ERC20s, but it's not going to work as a long-term solution for enterprise grade collateral. And that's what allows the Probity Vault and the RA stablecoin to hold multiple collaterals, because it could get all these price feeds. And I think that's important to note here. There's one other thing I wanted to say. Oh, and the governance is the final piece, is the liquid democracy. The way that you could delegate your vote to an expert or a foundation, or you could vote directly. And I think that's something that hopefully will catch on, and we could see actually governments, maybe we'll see that there's other ways to govern networks and systems, and it doesn't have to just be controlled by one central authority or held in one database that's secured by one entity, because that obviously hasn't worked. So this distributed model with liquid democracy, allowing everyone to participate, but delegating their vote, maybe on certain votes that's on an expert topic that maybe you don't have the knowledge to really make the best decision, you could delegate to someone who you trust, who is an expert on that. So I think that's a future of crypto, is governance is going to be very important. And I think the XRP ledger needs an upgrade on governance, speaking of. Hopefully PolySign could possibly solve that problem. All right, that was a long rant.
Mickey, you talked about the Flare time series oracle there and the pricing. And there's just a question for myself. Like in the beginning here, we're talking about pricing a number of F assets that were digital tokens, but we have securitized, like maybe bringing on stocks and stuff like that. How many different things can the oracle provide prices for? Is it hundreds, thousands? Is it all of the different things of the world? That's hard for me to imagine. I don't know if you have any sense of that.
So yes, more price feeds can be added. And right in the beginning, it's being used to manage the collateral of the F asset system. So there always has to be 2.5 times the value of the F assets in Spark value. So you need the price feeds for XRP to Spark, Litecoin to Spark, XLM to Spark, Doge to Spark, ADA to Spark. And those aren't traded on exchanges. So you need to come up with those prices through the USD price of them. And that's where the signal providers have to come up with their algorithms to come up with those trading pairs. And I think in the future, we could see easier price feeds. So if you're getting the gold price, for example, to USD, instead of just counting on one provider, getting it from one gold exchange in the world, we could have hundreds of signal providers already providing price feeds for other things. But now they get their gold price from different venues. Maybe one's from Bloomberg, one's from the gold exchange in Australia, one's from Europe, one's from here. And now it goes through that FTSO, which is the Flare time series oracle, and comes out with the real accurate price feed. This is where true price discovery could come from for many of the world's assets. And I think that's where a future could be for the Flare network as a data provisioning network like that. And I think we could see hundreds of price feeds as more signal providers come on the network. I'm not sure all will run through the FTSO, and they don't have to. Some signal providers might just provide price feeds for certain applications on the network.
And so far, there's nobody else that's taken an approach that's as decentralized as the Flare time series oracle. Is that correct?
That's correct at the infrastructure layer. There's been dApp protocols like Chainlink that are built on top of Ethereum that use their security, or like Band, which is built on top of the networks, but nothing that's really taken the approach of Flare. This is really what Vitalik has said is the vision of the ultimate decentralized oracle system, because you're rewarding good price feeds instead of just putting stake up and then slashing if they do something bad. So yes, it is unique in that way. It's the first system to ever do that because it's not using proof of stake or proof of work. KSpec 1515 asks, will RA be exclusively on the XRPL? Great question. They say that in the tweet, but I can't see how it wouldn't be available on Flare. We really need more details on what the Trustline Credit Network is. It seems like a layer 2 solution that goes on top of Flare and XRP Ledger. But yeah, just wait for more details on that. There's going to be a test net. We could all practice and use it just like we did with Flare Finance.
Mohammed Bari had an interesting question of another snapshot being possible, and there will not be for the Spark token, but already we know that 30 days after Flare Network launches, there will be a snapshot for the Flare Finance.
Yes.
And an interesting thing in there is that there's a snapshot in which we're going to be given D-Flare that becomes Y-Flare. But I'm thinking back to how we were talking about incentives and using the escrow for incentive. Flare Finance is going to have a token called YFin that you receive only in the first year and only by using Flare Farm and another part of Flare Finance. So we can in the future on Flare Network be looking for many more applications to be launching. And each of those applications is going to have options for how they're going to incentivize the bootstrapping and the initial use of that application. So there probably will be other snapshots coming down the road and other ways of incentivizing the beginning of new systems. So we have, whether we're investing in it or not, we have a fascinating journey ahead of us. learning as much as we can now. Go ahead, Mickey.
Oh, I was just answering somebody's question. No, continue.
Well,
Oh,
that's
with
all
the
I had on that.
okay.
And
You want to add
Brooklyn?
anything, Brooklyn?
we're getting close to an hour, Mickey.
I'm just listening in.
All right.
I'm not as active in Flare Finance and everything right now. I'm kind of, in my own little Kava universe, still anticipating or figuring out what my next move is going to be. It's on my radar. But...
So one thing that did change with Flare Finance, and I think this is important to note, it doesn't matter if the 15% of your initial spark or the 100%. It's whatever amount of spark you have 1 month after the Flare network goes live. Flare Finance is going to take a snapshot of that. So at least they did made that right, Brooklyn?
Yeah, that's definitely going to help increase participation and interest for sure.
So you're just going to have to make sure that you have it on a Flare Finance participating exchange, not a Flare participating exchange, a Flare Finance, or a Flare Finance participating wallet.
One thing I wish that they would do, and it's not an issue, but it's not Flare Finance. It's like I'm on Bits. I use Bitstamp. I would love to see if Bitstamp would just show me my spark claim.
Yeah.
They're not. We still have no idea. Like, I know I'm going to get it. I know I had it there on time, but it would be comforting. Like, at least if you did it on a ledger, what you have coming to you. But it would be nice psychologically to actually see how much Flare I have coming to me and not have to wait for that first 15%.
Did you ask them?
I've tried.
No response. Has anyone got an answer from anybody? Any exchange tell them to just give them their amount? Yeah.
Why not post it?
They have the info.
They know how much you're going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they know. They have an accounting system. They knew exactly the snapshot. And that snapshot was really for the exchanges. That's what Hugo said.
Right.
So, and somebody asked, am I still going to get my Spark tokens if I'm in New York and I had it on a ledger? Yes. It's just for Coinbase. I think it was just Coinbase Pro in New York.
I'm telling you, they're going to give them to people in New York.
I think they're going to have to.
It's probably just going to take like an extra month or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's going to be pushed back, but eventually they're going to give it to those people.
They're going to have to. And it's amazing how many exchanges participated so late. I really found it fascinating that Coinbase bent the knee at the end. Like, I never thought that would happen. Hugo didn't even think it would happen.
They were holding out. I remember they weren't saying boom. People were tagging them left and right. It took a while, but eventually, like you said, they did bend the knee.
Well, I think that it's because there's something. And why do these exchanges do that? I don't think it's necessary for the users. It's because there's something in it for them. They're going to offer services to you. And these exchanges, BitsTrue is just the first. They're going to say, hey, just give us your Spark. Stake it with us, and we'll pay you this crazy high yield that'll sound high, and it'll be easy, but you'll be able to maximize your yield if you do it through a self-hosted wallet or self-custody wallet. So we got to look out for the Flare Finance wallet and what's going on with that. So maybe it will be through Trustline. Toho Labs is building an interface. So we got to see how that's actually going to work. But you're going to be able to keep your private keys on like a Nano or a Decent wallet and then link it to something like Zum or some other type of software wallet that's for Flare. Zum is for just XRP. I don't think they're making a Flare wallet. Has anyone heard anything about that?
No, I haven't.
No. All right. I think we're going to wrap it up, Lars.
Yeah. Are you guys feeling, you guys are sounding a lot more relaxed. Kind of this little SEC blowout sounded like it was pretty good for you too.
Yeah, we needed to get off. I hate them. They just ruined my Christmas. And Jay Clayton, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want this video to get flagged for saying anything.
You guys listen to you listen to Blockchain Backer at all?
Yeah, I saw.
Did you hear his video today
about Christmas Eve? How his wife bought all the shirts for him.
Yeah,
that is sad. I mean,
terrible.
Yeah, it's like the last thing you want to see is XRP after they did that right at Christmas time on the last day. I mean, Gensler, anyone who's a decent person sees like, hey, you just screwed everybody right before Christmas after 8 years, and you gave them no heads up. You didn't even give me a heads up. I mean, he's got to have some sympathy and empathy that all these people are hurt. It's not like Ripple has been doing bad things for years. They've only done what's good for the community and good for the industry.
How does it just not look at a Christmas Eve? I don't get it.
And he walked out the door the next day. I mean, I think it has to do with their negotiations behind the scenes. There was something Ripple did not want to give into, and I think Clayton just said, "Well, that's it. We're gonna file it, and I'm out the door, and now I'm going to work for Apollo." He'll get his. Don't worry. Karma is a BITCH.
I'm Ripple toys. Owners choose. Do you guys owners choose?
What's that?
So, like 2 years ago, maybe there's an old charity that's been around for a long time. Apparently, it's fairly prestigious. It's well known. Well, donors choose or whatever. So schools who are in need of money, they want a project or whatever, they listed with donors choose. Ripple went on there and funded every single project. They gave $60 million to them. How could you?
Yeah, they've done so much good in that way, and they paint out these two guys to be like they're criminals, but they didn't even file any criminal charges. There's no fraud. There's no nothing, and they're just trying to make them look bad into the media. So it does seem like Deaton's onto something with the personal vendetta there. It's almost like they also didn't need to include that XRP was still a security now because they already admitted it. So they did that to go over the top to really make Ripple angry. But in the meantime, it hurt us. They admitted that the exchanges could still sell it, that we aren't selling illegal securities. So why did they do that and now backtrack on it? They're digging themselves a deep hole. Gensler's got to get them out.
Gensler gets confirmed on Thursday, and SEC quickly sends no action letters to the SEC to all these exchanges telling them it's okay. List XRP. That would be the thing I would look for, hopefully.
I like that. Yeah.
Right.
That's
Brooklyn, we want you to be right.
Yes.
There's a question from Keeg here about YFin and Flare Finance. And I guess I wanted just to close rather than answer that question specifically. Just if you don't know, Mickey's got a great Patreon Telegram group. It's just $5 a month. Everybody that's joined, nobody has left that group, and everybody finds probably that value on a daily basis being in there in the conversation. So for anyone who's a newcomer, questions are generously answered. There's also Mickey shows up every day and almost every day, and we have a great conversation around different topics and around your YouTube videos. So that's the Mickey B. Fresh Patreon group, and I highly recommend that as a place to just up your knowledge and up your game about what we're in the middle of and where we're going. So Mickey, thanks for creating all this together. Brooklyn, thanks for being here tonight. It was much more enjoyable than I expected.
You're welcome. And I do just want to answer that last question about YFin. So YFin is being distributed through liquidity mining. So you farm it by putting in tokens into Flare Farm, and it's distributed that way. They call it a fair distribution. So there's none being airdropped. They only could be obtained originally from Flare Farm, which you either put a liquidity pool token in or just a single-sided asset. And you could look into the Flare Finance Discord for more information on that. But that's how it's being distributed. And it is very low supply, only 11,000. So it should have a high value. But thank you, Lars. Thank you, Brooklyn, and thank you, everyone, for your contributions and super chats. They're very much appreciated, and I thank you. And thank you all moderators for all the great work answering the questions. It's very much appreciated, and all the support that I've gotten from everyone on YouTube, in the comments, and on Patreon. I really appreciate it, and it helps spread the word about Flare and the community so that we all can benefit in the future and build our wealth. That's what this is about. So we have to understand the tech to understand how we can build our wealth. All right. I think I'm going to leave it off on that note. And thank you, Brooklyn and Lars.
Good night.
I'm Mickey B. Fresh, and I'm out.